Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notify button so you know when you're getting new episodes. And we just want to grow this project. I thank you in advance. Without further ado, let's get it rolling. The Shout Out Show.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I hope you're having a fabulous Saturday. Of course, you know who I am. I'm Preach Moss, host of the SOS Shout Out Show. I want to give you big thanks and greetings and appreciation for coming on the show. We have an exceptional show lined up today. We're getting our guests sorted out. Just like we do every show. If this is your first time coming to the Shout Out Show, here's some things you need to know. Number one, we appreciate you coming. Number two, we hope that we give you a quality experience and a compelling argument to come back and join us. That's number two. And number three, I want you to enjoy yourself. And for everybody else who's a Shout Out Show soldier, I want everybody to know your family, we love you anytime. My platform is your platform. So I'm going to give a couple of quick shout outs before I bring out a special guest on today. That's Sister Ree. I hope you enjoyed that food from the catch. And Sister Angelique, thank you so much for coming on the show. You know, we have everybody. And of course, we got our consultant producer, Sister Sultana, who makes it all possible. Because, you know, your brother, sometimes I forget where I have my glass and it'll be right on top of my head. That's the way it goes. And we got Bilal Hassan. Boy, we got some all-stars in the building. Like, I feel like doing go-go back in the day, Sister Ayesha. We got some all-stars and celebrities in the building today. Now, let me give you guys a little bit of context before I bring our guest on. You know, in our community, the War of Deen Muhammad community, you have soldiers, you have FOI, and you have OGs. So I'm getting ready to introduce to you an OG. And the way this is going to work is I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of bantering. I'm going to ask some basic questions, and I'm going to step back because a teacher recognizes a real teacher. That's number one. Number two is any information I could give you can only come from her and having a conversation with her. All right, those are rules. And you know we're going to run a little bit longer because this is our Saturday spotlight. Now you see some things that are going across the screen. That's MuslimJournal.net. I want you to check that out. I'm going to put some other information up there because unfortunately with COVID, we're not going to be able to have our grand event, and I'm upset because this will be 2 years in a row. I was sick last year. I couldn't do Time to Be Grateful in LA. I was distraught because it's such an amazing event celebrating the heritage and the importance of course, the Muslim Journal. So without further ado, brothers and sisters, hold on to your hats. Hold on to your hijabs. When you got royalty in the building, you got royalty in the building. So without further ado, whatever y'all drinking, halal, sweet tea, water, juice, a queen is in the building. The OG is getting ready to speak. Let me welcome to the show our esteemed guest, Sister Ayesha Mustafaa. How you doing, sister?
Assalamu alaikum.
I
don't know what to do behind all that, but smile.
That's all you're supposed to do. Just like you've been smiling for so many. I'm going to tell you something. I am so happy to have you on the show. You know, we have some people that come on the show. They're not Muslim, but they're fans of the SOS. And I just like them to get a little bit of history and culture of the people I bring on the show. Now, we had a wonderful show last week. And here you are this week. First of all, let me thank you for coming on the show. I know you wear a lot of hats. Editor, writer, journalist, mom, grandmom, pioneer. You wear a lot of hats. Well, I say hats, but hijabs. Well, hats, hijabs. I don't worry. I'm just saying, brother and sister, when somebody is talented like she is to be able to carry an institution like the Muslim Journal, as long as she has, she continues to do it, then we got to celebrate. So, you know, I'm a little giddy. So, you know, I'm a little giddy as the host, but I want to take it back. I did some homework. You know, you may not believe this, but I got my degree in journalism too.
Okay, all right, I believe it.
Marquette University, 1988.
Okay.
So I had to do a little homework. You know how that goes. So let's go back. You graduate from high school in Mississippi, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
You apply and accepted to Bucknell University.
Straight out of Mississippi, from the north, from the south to the north.
Tell me, all these schools down south, you wind up at Bucknell. Now, for those that don't know, Bucknell is an amazing school. I mean, a very, very well-established, incredible tradition of education, learning. You wind up in Bucknell in Pennsylvania. How did that happen?
In the hills of Pennsylvania. I mean, you don't just ride up into Bucknell. You have to know it's a Bucknell there and go there. You know, Highway 15. Yeah. Well, coming out of Mississippi, I was at Piney Woods, which is a boarding school in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of recruiters coming out of in that era, 70. Let me see what I can give away. The early 70s, the early 70s, recruited, and was for integrating colleges. You know, the elementary schools, et cetera, were integrated, but the colleges, we had colleges that didn't have Black student bodies in the student body. And so Bucknell had recruiters going out, and one of them managed to show up in Piney Woods, Mississippi. And I got a full ride out of that meeting with one of their recruiters. I got a full ride to go to Bucknell University for 4 years.
It's amazing. That never served as an accomplishment. So you're a double major at Bucknell.
Yeah.
You okay? What's psychology?
Psychology and political science, because either we had a mental problem or we had a legal problem, and I didn't know which one I wanted to tackle.
You need to write that one down. That was funny.
That was real. That was real. That's where we were. That's where we were, and that's where we are.
So in that space, behind the in the background, of course, it's the NOI back then.
Coming out of Bucknell, I ran right into the Nation of Islam. Believe it or not.
Because let me ask you, when did you go back and get your master's for journalism?
After I was in Chicago, Illinois, I had my 4 children went to graduation with me at Columbia College in Chicago, Illinois. Wow. I had already landed the job, but you know, when you go into a profession that you know you want to do your best at,
yes, ma'am.
I figured I need to go back and pick up a few tools and just see what people had been saying. So I went back for my degree in journalism because I had already landed the job at Muslim Journal.
So let's go back. Like you said, you went and narrate this for me. You graduate from Bucknell and you run straight into the Nation. How did that happen?
Well, moving around, I had a large extended family, and part of them had moved to Atlanta, out of Mississippi into Atlanta. They were living in Atlanta, and their lives had been established there. So when I graduated from Bucknell, I went straight from Bucknell to Atlanta.
Okay.
And in the process of being in Atlanta, it's amazing. I'm gonna tell you this. It's amazing how many street people got degrees. Everybody on the street with a degree sticking out of their pocket during that time. So we all walking around with degrees, knocking heads with each other and not knowing which direction we want to go in yet, because everybody's angry. Dr. King has been killed. The Black Panthers have been emaciated. Wow. The only thing that was left standing with some substance was the Nation of Islam.
Yes, ma'am.
And so as disgruntled, we were smart enough to know that we need to be disgruntled. We weren't pacified, you know. So there's a lot of college students in Atlanta at the time, African-American college students, graduates. And we were kind of like really searching for something to hold on to. And so there was this certain wave, a certain group of African Americans, new graduates in Atlanta that said, I'm going over to see what the Nation of Islam is doing. I mean, it's like I'm going over next door, knock on the door, and see what they're doing in there, kind of thing, you know.
Wow.
And so I was in that group that, yeah, let's go see what the Nation of Islam is doing. And I went in, Big Rockman, we call him Big Red at the time, was teaching Minister Rockman, and he was sitting there and he said, today is the first day of the rest of your life. And I just sit there from then on. I said, well, this is a start. I'm going to start from here and see where this takes me. And it's been there since 1974, going into 75. Yep.
Now, can I ask a question? The idea about journalism, being a journalist, was that working with you at that time, or is it something that came later?
Well, I always, you know, going through the college experience, you're always writing, right? You know, every course is a writing course.
Yes, ma'am.
Political science is a writing exercise. Psychology is reading somebody else's writing. And, you know, we used to have this exercise in psychology. Write as if you were so-and-so, a professional in psychology, and give the conclusion that they would give if they were the one diagnosing this case. So we always had to transpose ourselves in the position of someone else. So it was a natural flow because you're always analyzing, you're writing, and you're understanding the words carry, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
And actually, when I came into the Nation of Islam, I left out of Atlanta and went to Chicago. Within the 1 year of being a Muslim, I was in Chicago. And one of the things I did in Chicago before the Muslim Journal was we had all these committees set up. Everybody's supposed to pick a committee and get on it. So I picked the Public Information Committee.
Okay.
And we had a newsletter. And so I would interview people in the Nation of Islam for the newsletter. Muhammad Speaks was there, but these were the committee responsibilities, you know. And I began to really feel the urge to write more frequently and more immediately, you know, not for long-term historical perspectives, but the immediate need to get the message out.
Now, I think it's interesting because that time space that you frame for everybody after Dr. King was killed, Black Panthers were emaciated. So you have this space in the 70s, and you figure 74, and then you have the first resurrection. You have the first, and then you have the second. I'm sorry. What happened in the second that allowed you to hold on to this idea of public information, and B allowed you to, if you will, transition to the space where you become the editor of the Muslim Journal?
Okay, now, the other interesting thing was when I was coming out of Atlanta, the way I got to Chicago, Imam Muhammad had already taken office. So the second wave, the second transition, the second resurrection was already in progress. I won't say full swing, but it was in progress. Of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had died that February 75. Imam Muhammad came in that Savior's Day 75, came into office. And so recruiters were coming. When Imam Muhammad came into office, his thing was, put it bluntly, I'm gonna break up this Chicago thing. You know, everybody's all entrenched. Everybody knows everybody. You know, he knew a lot of them when they were against him, because of course, you know, he had been excommunicated about 3 times. So a lot of them had walked him to the door.
Like,
you know,
good old numbers.
So he basically was busting up the Chicago, and not to offend anybody, but he was busting up the Chicago gang. And so he sent recruiters out throughout the country, throughout the United States, where Muslim strongholds were, and recruited people to come to Chicago. And I was recruited out of Atlanta to come to Chicago. But, you know, we knew the recruiters were there, Naeem Akbar among them, and we knew they were interviewing. So we got our little resumes together, and I stick my little resume in there, and I got my little double major, and I did this and I did that. And when Naeem Akbar called me in for the one-on-one interview, he looked at me, and the first thing he said was, I understand that you can transcribe. I got a double major in psychology and political science. I went to an all-white school, Ivy League school in the North, survived the winters up there, came back home, and the one thing that caught his eye was that I could transcribe. And I said, yes, sir. Of course, yes, sir. He said,
I don't mean to laugh. That is that's humbling.
It's humbling, but it makes you humble also, because that transcribing job was the best position I've had as an evolving, transitioning out of one life into the next life Muslim. Because my transcription job was to transcribe the lectures of Imam W.D. Muhammad.
Yes, ma'am. A valuable job.
Teaching, learning experience, because you can sit on the floor and listen to someone and you only get about 10% of what they say.
Yes, ma'am.
When you go back and start transcribing and retranscribing and really proofreading and reproofreading, you realize what the person has actually said. And most of the time while I'm transcribing, I'm saying, I wonder, did everybody hear that? I wonder, did everybody hear that? Because if he stopped us from applauding, but sometimes the amount could be comical, and we burst out in a laugh, and you think that maybe what he said just then got drowned out in the laughter. Because he was profound, and those transcripts was what he would use to teach the then captains and ministers to become imams.
I read that a lot of the stuff that you transcribed was a blueprint, if you will. It was an instructional manual how they were going to get from point A to point B. I think
Imam kits. They call him Imam's kits.
Imam kits. It's amazing, because just that little bit of nuance in terms of the history of African American Islam here in America. I have to say, just having an Imam kit is incredibly advanced. Number one, I don't think people understand the what's the word? The profundity of having an Imam kit, and you're just coming out of the NOI, trying to understand the Sunni Aqidah, and someone comes out with this idea of an Imam kit, and you are right at the middle of it.
I'm sitting at the table, transcribing these Imam kits that's supposed to transition captains who run FOIs, the Fruit of Islam. They train the Fruit of Islam FOIs and ministers who run mosques. And the same kits that I was transcribing is the one that A.K. Hassan at Los Angeles read, from the transition from a minister to an imam. And I say that because I like A.K. Hassan, and I know he'll like the humor. But it's the same kit that Ali Rashid came from being the captain on the West Coast to being the imam at Masjid Malcolm Shabazz in New York. Those were the kits that transitioned their mindset, their learning, their thinking, from the NOI, FOI thinking into the Islam proper concepts. And it wasn't, the other thing was, it was so original. It didn't come from Al-Azhar. It didn't come from King Fahd out of Saudi Arabia. It didn't come from anywhere else but straight out of Imam W.D. Muhammad, who had and we say that with great honor, because he had already filtered what we needed and what we didn't need.
That is amazing. Are there any? Can we get a hold of an Imam kit and just put it in a museum? Do you have one in the garage someplace?
I have one. I think I hid because someone from the Imam's office some years back asked me, did I have one, and I sent it to them, and I didn't get it back. So I think I have one, but I'm sure some of the Imams who might be listening to this, if you said, do you still have your Imam's kit from 1975? When Imam Muhammad was transitioning the captains and the ministers into being Imams, can you put your hand on one? They were like 3 inches thick, with these big binders in the back, and they came out so frequent, they didn't have time to go get the hard binders on them. They came out like maybe a 3-inch kit was once a month, because that was what we were doing, was compiling his lectures. What he gave, but again, remember, what he gave those brothers for their training was what he was giving to the whole community. He just compiled it. He just helped them a little further and compiled it for them. But the Imams instruction to us as Muslims, believers, on brothers and sisters sitting on the floor in front of him. He said, "Don't sit there and look at me." He said, "You bring your notebook, your pen, and your pencils, and take notes." He didn't want people sitting there just, as if they were sitting in awe. They were awestruck, like this was like we were at the Preacher Moss show.
Yeah, I caught a couple of left and rights from there, man. I know exactly what you're saying.
But he would say, this is state of time, and he wasn't wasting time. Now, he could give some long lectures. A lecture could be, God is my witness, and there are some believers that back me up. We went in the gym at the school on Stone Island at 7:00 that evening, and we got out at 6:00 that morning.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of those. Yeah. But let me ask you this.
If they had to go to work, he told them, if you got to go to work, you're excused.
Let me ask you this, Sister Ayesha. All of this is happening. Your transition, school, all of that. I have to ask, were you balancing family at this time too?
It came along. I was a late bloomer, as they say. I had been in the nation about 4 years before I got married and began to have a family. I had been in different offices. I actually did a stint at the Muhammad Speaks newspaper on Federal Street, which is a historic piece in and of itself. I got married, had 4 children, got divorced, raised my 4 children. Like I say, got the job at Muhammad Speaks, which was also interesting because the editor actually got sick, and I was one of those people around the march that was kind of like the get Ayesha to do it kind of thing. Just get Ayesha to do it. Send Ayesha over there. Tell her to take care of it till we get something going. So I was sent to the paper, the Muslim Journal at the time. We had gone through Muhammad Speaks, Bilalian News, AM Journal. It was the Muslim Journal. When the editor got sick and the brothers around the masjid was trying to figure out what they were going to do, and they looked at me and said, "Ayesha, you go over there and take care of things until we figure out what we're going to do."
So they still trying to figure out what they're going to do because you ain't left yet.
Well, that was, I hate to say it, but that's like 30 years ago.
I think that means they ain't figured out what to do. I think they figured out. They let you do it.
We plan on a lot of plans. That's all I can say.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So you step into the office of editor.
Yes.
What's it look like when you walk into that office? I had a really bad internship when I came out of college, which probably led me to do stand up. But I remember walking into a place that was supposed to have journalism, and I was like, the only thing they have remind me of journalism is just newspaper on the floor. So you walk into the Muslim Journal. Is it moving along? Is it in a space where it has to be redesigned or redirected?
Well, I fell into the direction it was going in. I just, as for example, when I first got there, wasn't that I got there as the editor. I was supposed to be there to get things in order and to make sure the paper continued.
Yes.
That we didn't have any setbacks. So my objective was to make sure that the paper continued. And in doing that, I'm also saturating what has happened so far myself. So I'm really a fast learner, on the job learner, basically.
Yes.
But the Nation of Islam has such a history until you it's one of those odd jobs again. Remember, the Muhammad Speaks was started by Malcolm, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a while in and of itself. The Muhammad Speaks was brought to Chicago by, we now know as Jabba Muhammad, but Herbert Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad's son, Herbert, was the one that brought it to Chicago. The Muhammad Speaks was the biggest cash earner at the time in the Nation of Islam. When Imam Muhammad came into office, the one major institution within the Nation of Islam that everybody revered was the Muhammad Speaks. Muhammad Speaks had profound editors, and one of them was a copy editor by the name of Diane Nash. If anybody knows African American history and the Freedom Riders, go back and read the story about Diane Nash as a 20-something-year-old girl coming out of Fisk University. She got on the bus with the Freedom Riders coming out of Fisk University that headed south. Kennedy's aide on the ground in the South called her up and told her, "Don't bring those students down here. You're going to get those kids killed." And Diane Nash's response was, "Sir, everybody that got on this bus gave me their last will and testament." That was the copy editor at Muhammad Speaks. And we have many others that have profound histories, because Muhammad Speaks was a profound paper. And in the transition towards Imam Muhammad's concepts, he said he has to change the language. So he also had to change the language in the Muhammad Speaks as well as the name in order to get the attention of the people. In order for them to do an about face from the direction they're going in, he had to change the language within that vehicle, that opinion molding, impressive newspaper that would convert people in and of itself. Before they got to the temple, if they read the Muhammad Speaks, they were on their way to becoming Muslim. The late Imam Kazim Ahmed, before he was an imam, he was a lieutenant in the Nation of Islam over the Fruit of Islam, and he was a newspaper lieutenant. Therefore, he was in charge of the brothers taking the newspapers out and selling them. And Kazim told me one time he could sell a newspaper to people who couldn't read.
Yeah.
The opening, the introduction to get people talking was that newspaper. So that's the value of the newspaper in and of itself. It goes way beyond the speaker and the message. It is like the tentacles that goes out throughout the community. And that's the value of media, period. Fast forward to today's time. But in the transition from Imam Muhammad with the Muhammad Speaks, his method was gradual to bring us along with him. The first name he transitioned to was the Bilalian News. Now, it was a sister in that fork of the road also. Anna Kareem was the first editor woman coming out of Muhammad Speaks going into Bilalian News. Now, she was OG.
Okay.
Because those brothers didn't play and she didn't play. And when Imam Muhammad said he wanted to go in a new direction, that was some of them that had to take the reins and say, we going in a, it was like, hello, did you hear him say we going in a new direction? So let's get started on the new direction. And there was some resistance from some people. And Anna Kareem helped lead the group that brought it forward in the direction that Imam Muhammad wanted to go in. So I take my hat off to those people. And from there, I read their stories and their profiles and the things that they went through. And I'm just honored to be a placeholder for the things that they've done all these years to come to this point.
That's it's a humbling story. When you think about journalism now, we think about the Wall Street, the Journal, we think about the New York Times, Washington Post. Here's this newspaper that's quietly just changing the cultural tenor for African American Muslims and African Americans here in the United States, man. It just does not get enough credit. I mean, I want to again thank you for coming on the show, because I couldn't get this information anywhere, and I think this is a beautiful thing. Now, let me ask you. Let's move forward. So we have the Muslim Journal now, and I'm gonna put it in present tense right now, present mode. Journalism is not what it used to be, and that's a kind way of saying it. It's very partisan in a lot of regards. It's very specialized in a lot of regards. But the Muslim Journal has managed to maintain its space. When I say maintain its space, I mean it has a space where it's integrity. It's things you can count on. How have you been able to do that with all the madness going around? How the media is used, how journalism is used. What's been the couple things that you've held on to make sure that the Muslim Journal remains an integrity piece when people read it?
Well, the uniqueness of journalism. Just now I teach journalism. Right now I'm a journalism teacher at Tougaloo College, and for my students, I have to inspire them for this major that they're going into, because it's not the highest paying profession, but I think it's one of the most important professions on the book. Like when you look at journalism in terms of the grand scheme of things, for example, in this democracy, and I emphasize democracy, and the way this government is set up, you have the executive branch, you have the legislative branch, Congress, and then you have the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. But sitting out here to the side is what we all in the profession call the fourth estate. It's like if you have four columns, the fourth column sitting out there all by itself is journalism. And it is the one profession that's protected in the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment to the Constitution protects a free press. And it says a free press. And why? Because while all these other mechanisms are working, you actually need that watchdog to the side that's not appointed by or controlled by the other three branches of government. So if the press is doing its job, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, it holds accountable all the other players in government in a democracy. In other countries that don't necessarily are not democracies, don't even pretend to be democracies, but even those that pretend to be, when there's a coup, the first thing you see them do is take over the press.
Yes.
They take over the communication. They take over the voice that speaks directly to the people. And I tell my students, what's your role? Your role is John Q. Public. You're not here for yourself. You're here to represent the public. And you're supposed to be able to absorb what's going on, digest it, and put it back out in a form that the public can understand what's important about it for them. And at the same time, that's why you see now in today's era of our government, the thing that's being attacked the hardest is the press. When you have the government, the executive branch, look back at all those camera guys, reporters in the back and say, y'all are the enemy of the people.
It's difficult.
It's difficult for the job, but he's trying to sway the public. They don't believe what come out of their mouths. So if they say I stole $1 million out of my campaign fund and gave it to my daughter, don't believe that. They just the enemy of the people.
You know, sister, I think we need to get you a White House press pass. I need you to sit right up front.
Be a target. Be a target for Trump. All they have to do is read a couple of my Facebook and they'll walk me to the door. They'll be saying, lock her up, lock her up. That'd be a chant.
He won't mess with you like that. We'll have you back.
Yeah, that's what all the other ones are saying now too.
No, you know, we'll bring the FOI.
But the bottom line though is we do the song and dance with the press. We like them, we don't like them. We like them, we don't like them. But we one thing for sure do need them. Now the press has to be reprimanded to own up to their principles that they adhere to. Their oaths that they take to be unbiased, to be objective, to tell quote unquote the truth. Mm-hmm. Don't do something behind their back when they know it would sway the opinion of the people. And we went through that with them when we had this big explosion of Islamophobia and terrorists and everything. Then everything Muslim was a terrorist. Some of the things I heard came out of reporters' mouths just made me squirm, because if I said Allahu Akbar, somebody was saying, "Where's the bomb? Where's the bomb? Where's the bomb?" You know. So just take everything that we hold sacred and toss it into one basket as terrorists. And the press aided and abetted that mindset in the American public. And we hold them responsible for that. But they have been whipped down so bad, they even thinking about that now. They've taken a beating themselves to where they really have to say, am I truthfully being down the middle and being honest? So I've come to a time where I really see the press self-assess themselves, especially in this time where we start talking about systemic racism. Mm-hmm. And to see white guys like Chris Cuomo say, I'm not a racist, but I know people who hold themselves above other races, and so he really assessing himself with his African American comrades on CNN to really determine, do I fall in that category? And they're really doing some soul searching in that regard. Now I just pray that it holds up under the context of when somebody else drop a bomb, they don't throw all Muslims under the bus.
Let me ask you now. I alluded to earlier that there's not going to be at this point there's not going to be a time to be grateful this year in Atlanta. For those that don't know, a time to be grateful is really a showcase and just a reminder of how important the Muslim Journal is. It's a banquet. It's a social event. I've been at numerous events, performed, got sat in the audience. So it's not happening this year. I know that you guys, one of the other things that's important about a time to be grateful for those that are listening is that this is a opportunity to fundraise. Running a newspaper is not easy. And while people think, hey, you pay for a subscription, there's so many aspects of cost. Even in the digital presentation, there's a lot of cost. So can we talk about what we're going to be doing? I know that there's a Launch Good campaign. I have it up on the screen. Let me ask you a question. There's a blunt question. What is it that our paper, the Muslim Journal, needs in terms of funding, in terms of support? This is a time, and I'm telling everybody out here, this is a time to get off that talk, and we need to support our institution. So the floor is yours. What does my sister need at the Muslim Journal?
For the my generation, I think we understand it. We get it because we still a touchy-feely kind of people. We need to rattle the paper. So they'll buy a Muslim Journal. They'll turn the pages. For the younger set, your generation, I need y'all to understand that you need to touch something physical. Everything is not about the internet, even though in this day and time it is the lifesaver of us all, but still, you need to dedicate yourselves to information gathering organ and support it. Mm-hmm. Because I say in terms of our community, it's a legacy. Those brothers worked those papers on the street with their legs. Now you don't have to leave your office or your room to disseminate the news and have the news go far and wide and even overseas, but you have to you at least have to tap the button. Mm-hmm. You at least have to go on the website. You at least have to log in to disseminate the news, and that keeps the paper strong. It still needs readers. It still needs financial supporters. It still has a staff and all the wheels that are turning to keep a business and an organization moving forward. They're still in place that needs to be fed. I say it's like a baby. You can't feed the baby on Tuesday and wait till a month from Tuesday to say, oh, I think I'll go feed the baby again. No, the baby is still growing. The baby still needs food. It has to be a continuous flow of support.
Okay.
And it has a legacy that deserves the support. I came in midstream. A lot of the heavy lifting had already been done. And I do mean some heavy lift. Some brothers got shot on the street pushing this paper.
Wow.
Because they had physical resistance. People argued with them on the street, and they were determined, this is Mr. Muhammad's words, and we're going to get it out. We went to Bermuda, and the people said, we heard about Islam through the paper. Wasn't no Muslims down here until they started sending paper down here and sending and distributing. I heard people say, I read Imam Muhammad's words in the paper. Before they got to the mosque, before they got to the temple, before they got to a masjid. So it's far reaching.
It reached me. Back in Washington, D.C., Master Muhammad. Absolutely. And I think, to piggyback on your point, the idea of going to pursue and pursue and attain a Muslim Journal is all part of a social function. It's people don't understand. It's a social process. The paper doesn't cost you $20. It doesn't cost it's that $2. It's what it is. Here's, brother, keep this for the masjid. Give me my papers, and it's that change that keeps it really, really keeps our community organic, if you will.
Less than a cup of coffee once a week. And if you go to Starbucks, you can buy 2 Muslim journals. You go into Dunkin' Donut, you still come out cheaper buying the paper.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree. And so if anybody's out there, make sure y'all get your Muslim journal. Stop playing around. Stop playing around. So, sister, what do you see as the challenges moving forward? We're in an election year. I had the pleasure of talking to Tim Russert before he passed away. Remember Tim Russert, the journalist? It was Chris, the guy who did Hardball. Chris,
yeah.
It was during Obama's first term. We were on a layover in Cleveland, Ohio, and I guess I was the only black guy close to them. They said, "What do you think about this Obama thing?" And I said, "I thought he had a first name and last name. He's a man, not a thing." And we began this conversation about the idea that I personally felt like he was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was, I don't really believe people will be ready for him when he wins. Now, with this particular situation, I believe that the president will lose, but he won't be ready to lose. He won't be in the mindset to lose.
Yeah.
As a journalist, how do you prepare for that?
Well, that's our part of our function. Part of our job is to prepare the public for all the what ifs, and that's the journalist's responsibility, is to disseminate information on all these different scenarios that can take place. One is, if you don't go out and vote, then Donald Trump is going to win. And all the assessment is just the data that shows what happened in the last election is because people didn't go out and vote. So now the media really is taking upon themselves to do more voting campaigning, get out the vote type of campaigning. And right now, the real big push is against Donald Trump. Appeal to people to do some weird kind of stuff that will monkey with the voting. One is, for example, withholding financial support from the post office. Putting it at the head of the helm of the post office, a financial donor of his that has monkeyed with everything. He's taking out machines. The other one, now he's telling his people, if you do a mail-in ballot, go to the poll anyway and vote again, just to see what happens. And law enforcement was trying to tell them, if you vote again, you just broke the law and we're going to arrest you. And then I
remember there's a black woman that accidentally voted twice, and they arrested her.
They will arrest. It's illegal. But our president is encouraging people to do these things to throw a wrench in the machinery of the voting process, and that's just what he's doing. But because we are connected worldwide on the internet, now you have Russia, China, and they say Iran as well, tinkering with the election process here for one reason or the other. And Russia, for example, wants Donald Trump to stay in the office because Trump doesn't question anything about Russia. China and Iran is a maybe. I don't know. But all the information is coming. Everybody now is trying to get the word out to try to keep the election authentic, up and above board, and actually let people's votes be counted. Now, once they're counted and he's voted out of office, the other conversation that's going on, and that's what reporters are doing, sitting around listening to conversations, bring it back to the people. There are conversations from some people that are saying you need a contingency plan in case he loses, so somebody can go in there and take him out the White House.
Yeah, I've heard the whole idea of monkeying around with the mail-in vote was to ensure that on election night you won't have a clear winner. Like that's the strategy that I've heard several people say. And in that, and it reminds, and people go, that can't happen. I'm like, that's how George Bush got in.
The hanging chads.
Dimple Chad, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We had never heard of the two words dimple and Chad put together.
Really.
Whole election.
Yeah, and that's the role of the media as well. The media can't leave it to anyone else to come back and tell you had a free and clear election unless they have their eyes on it themselves and they can verify it. Now, media people, if they do their jobs, that means that they have checked and double checked everybody else's job.
Yes.
So it is a hard working profession. And when it's done right, they deserve things like, the highest honor in journalism is called a Pulitzer Prize, right? Like Pulitzer, who started journalism school, Pulitzer. And media people, the in-house people aspire for that prize, but it is it has the weight of the Nobel Peace Prize in the journalism world, but it has some stringent requirements for you to meet.
Mm-hmm.
It lets the peers know that you really went above and beyond to get a story and get the factual story out, and that story has had impact.
What can we do in our community to become, for lack of a better word, a lot more astute about the journalistic process, about how stories come to be, about the importance of narrative, if you will, and the importance of communication? What are some of the things we do in our community? And I'll shut up and sit back and learn.
Oh, well, I always encourage people to go into journalism for one reason or another. And if you don't, even people who go into other degrees, for example, law, a lot of people who went into journalism continue on into law. But whatever your interest is, wherever you think are your strong points, use those points to build upon a journalism platform to disseminate that information to other people. If you have a medical platform, just think of how important it is for you to get that medical information out to the general public, especially about COVID-19, the impact on minorities, whether you should take the vaccine or not. People who have a understanding of the medical field need to write that information and disseminate it as a journalist to the broader public. For example, we have Dr. Mikhail Ramadan out of Chicago, by the way, who was one of those young people that got shot for selling Muhammad Speaks down in Tennessee, who came to Chicago as a doctor who was going to help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad build a hospital on the south side of Chicago. And then later on, under the leadership of Imam W.D. Muhammad, he was working in the medical field, and he eventually became a emergency room administrator in one of the suburbs of Chicago. He's retired now, but he's still writing articles in the Muslim Journal about COVID-19. And there is an organization of Muslim health professionals consortium, and they all send information in, collected information, verifiable information on COVID-19 from the Muslim perspective and the African American perspective as writers for the Muslim Journal. So you can have these different interests, but still they can be funneled into the dissemination information medium, the newspaper, for others to read. We have how many sports figures in Muslims who we could write about to not only encourage young budding sports persons by their examples, but to really demonstrate that Muslims are multifaceted.
I always looked at the Muslim Journal. It was the paper. We always called the paper. I always said, this is a lifestyle Bible for the Muslim community. This is a lifestyle Bible. I mean, back in the day, you would know where Imam was going to be appearing. You could look and find out, and it gave you so much of an understanding of what the work still is. Every weekend he was here, he was there, he was there. But it reminded us over and over that, for myself, that there was always work to be done, and everybody had a part to play.
That's right.
I mean, that was the thing about the paper. It's so vital in reminding people that it has a part to play.
It has a part to play. And that old saying, you don't miss your water till the well runs dry, it would be greatly missed if it were not there.
Well, that happen. We'll make sure that doesn't happen, sis.
We want to keep the water flowing.
If I have to get out and sell a couple papers myself, we're gonna make it happen.
That's right. And I just encourage everyone, please buy a paper for yourself and for a friend, a family member, or a coworker. Um, People say, how can we increase the journal? I said, buy a second paper. We would double the circulation overnight. You buy one and then buy another one. Imam Muhammad used to buy papers for his neighbors and take them over to their house, knock on the door, and hand them a Muslim journal. Every convention, he would buy 2,000 papers and pass them out out free.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it. That the fun part about the Muslim Journal is it's just been connected to years and years of strong traditional leadership. It's interesting that it's actually pretty seamless.
Yeah.
You think about it. I mean, we're in of course when the digital media age and things like that, and there's just so much content out there. But there's a lot of content, but sometimes there's a lot of content, but there's not a lot of substance. Like the Muslim Journal has substance. Like I can talk to people who physically talk to people who've been involved with this, the heavy lifting, if you will, the vision, if you will, and the whole idea of sustainability, which is an amazing thing. So whatever I can do, sister, you have my support. Folks, let me put this back up, sister. So folks need to know where to donate to Launch Good. That's bit.ly Muslim Journal hyphen Launch Good 2020. And we're going to talk about this campaign a little bit more, sister. Once we get off the air, we'll see what we need to do to get that structured. Also, people, you need to know where to go get your Muslim Journal. Let me make sure I do that as well. On the ticker, don't say I didn't put it. It's been up there the whole time, sister. www.muslimjournal.net. Make sure you pick up a copy. Don't pick up a copy. Pick up a subscription, 1 or 2 subscriptions. And make sure, do it like the Jehovah's Witness. Just buy a cup and just drop it on people's doors. That's what they do. And make sure the information continues and the tradition continues. Sister Ayesha, this has been an amazing interview. I want to do the last couple minutes. What do you want to tell? Really, the viewers, but you got a lot of fans. So what do you got a lot of fans, you got a lot of family. What do you want to tell us? I'm quiet. I'm listening to you.
Praise be to Allah that they have within this newspaper organization the rolled up history of a movement in this country from the early days of the Nation of Islam moving forward into that's been the first resurrection as we open up into the second resurrection with the leadership of Imam David D. Muhammad. And now with his passing, Imam Muhammad told us, make for me a good future. So when we go forward out into the third transition, we should have arrived. We said 3 trimesters and the baby's born. We should be giving birth right about now. Okay. Now, when you think about newspapers, the one subtitle for newspapers has been your media, your newspaper is your rough draft of history. So we don't want to miss any parts of that history as it is unfolding. And it was the responsibility of the journalist, and you are a journalist the moment you start writing, to send us that information so the rough draft of history can be complete for those who are coming behind us to see just what we did here. We've had major media organizations come to the Muslim Journal to do research on what happened even before I got there, out of the pages of the old Muhammad Speaks and the Bilalian News and the Muslim Journal, they find out who was doing what, when, where, and what were the responses to it. So it's not something that it's a never-ending profession. As long as history is rolling, we need someone in the journalism field and in the role of the Muslim Journal to keep it forward.
Sister, I am indebted to you, as all of us are. I'm indebted to you, and I appreciate you taking your time and sharing your wisdom and sharing some of that OG shine on us young folks. We appreciate you. We love
just tell your young folks, I used to be young too. So
I didn't say you weren't young now. I didn't say you be young.
I'm just tell them they gotta walk the same road, do the same journey, and come out on the other end as well. So we gonna wait and see shape and condition they're in as they continue their journey.
For y'all watching, Sister Ayesha is only 28 years old. So, thank you so much, Sister Ayesha. We appreciate you, and we'll be in touch. Keep us in your du'as. We'll keep you in our du'as. Continued success. Thank you so much for buying my heart. And whatever I can do, always, there's nothing but a phone call. And everybody, please remember, we're going to be running this campaign because there's not going to be a time to be grateful down in Atlanta. So we need your support, just like you were coming to Atlanta. So anything yeah, put a few dollars in there, put a few more. Got time.
Yeah, right.
But thank you so much. May Allah bless you and give you success and bless you and your family. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you. And you always have a home on the Shout Out Show with me, Preacher Moss.
Thank you. And let everyone know this is for our future.
Yes, ma'am.
Those behind us. We want this to be a legacy that goes forward for years and years to come.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Sister Ayesha.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hey, fam. Thank you so much, everybody checking out. We got some stars in the bill. Can I get Imam Pleeman is my homie from Atlanta. First time the Imam's been on the show. Imam, we appreciate you. Click that subscribe button and the like button. I'm just messing with you. You don't have to click anything. Thank you so much for tuning in on the show. Everybody, if you get anything out of this interview, I'm telling you, understand institutions. Understand that the Muhammad Speaks, Final Call, the Balayan News, the American the Muslim Journal, all of these are institutions, and you never hear about them, and they're still going on today. So I'm telling everybody, support your institutions. Get out of this habit of thinking somebody else is going to support it. We have to support it. We're really responsible. In fact, we're indebted to all these people that have carried it all this time. And when they go to hand it off to us, we have to be present. We have to be present. We have to be inspired. We have to be creative, and we have to be dedicated. So I'm done preaching on that. You guys have been excellent. I will see you tomorrow on Sunday Potluck with Preacher Moss. I don't know the topic yet, but we're going to have fun. Again, big thanks to Sister Ayesha. We appreciate her. And also a big thanks to Sister Sultana Whitfy, who actually helped pull this thing together. Everybody, I'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your Shout Out Show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next Shout Out Show. Simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarifa Tar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out tarifatar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.